it's Gamer Ahmer here. So today I wanted to talk about some of my rare and expensive limited edition controllers in my video game collection. Now, as I have hundreds of controllers, this was very difficult to narrow it down to 10, so I actually included some special mentions as well. So let's go ahead and check them out. So first up, we'll talk about some of the newer console controllers that I have in my collection. So this one in particular is a pretty rare controller. I haven't seen many others like it. This is actually a Pizza Hut Xbox One controller that you could only win through a contest through Pizza Hut. So the only difference with this controller is that the whole thing is red on top and it has this Pizza Hut logo. And this actually came in an original controller box for a white Xbox One controller. So this one is one of my prized controllers in my collection, as this was a pretty awesome find. I actually found it for about the same price as a regular Xbox One controller. And this is just so cool because it has this really awesome faceplate on it that is for Pizza Hut. And this is just a neat controller. I haven't seen too many others just like it. And then on to another Xbox One controller. We actually have this Elite Pro controller. So when this released, they actually had tons of Gears of War promotional items out where you could get the headset, which is the one that I actually use. And they have controller stands. They have this Elite Pro controller, some regular standard editions of the controller. But this one just really stuck out because it came with this really awesome limited edition Gears of War controller case. It has this special cord with it, all of these different accessories, and these buttons just go right on the back of this Elite Pro controller. And it even has this really awesome D-pad style controller button where it has all of these different weapons that you can use in the game. So this was a really awesome controller. They used a lot of detail on here where they have this actually etched out part. It looks like there's some scratches on here. Looks like there's some blood. And of course it has all of the Gears of War logos on it and then on the back. So this is a pretty heavy duty controller. This is definitely a pretty awesome one. And then right here it even says Gears of War 4. Right when you move this controller button and you move it out of the way, you can actually see it. So that is a pretty neat touch to this controller. They really went all out when making this controller. Even this controller case is pretty awesome because you have this Lancer image right on this pretty awesome case. Now moving on to this Xbox 360 controller. This one is one of my personal favorites in my collection, as I don't own the console yet for this Halo 4 version of the Xbox 360, but I did find one of these pretty awesome controllers. This one's just really neat. I really like how it has this see-through effect to it. Definitely brings back the good old days where a lot of the systems had these, whether it be Nintendo with all of their pretty awesome Game Boys and Nintendo 64 controllers, and then of course with the Sega Dreamcast. A lot of these consoles went through and had all of these see-through aspects to them so that you can actually see everything that's underneath of here. You see the whole board and everything in here. So this one, the Halo 4 version, is just a personal favorite. This one's not really that expensive. It's not too rare, but it is one that's more difficult to find if you're just collecting locally and trying to find some of these for a good deal. And then on to some PlayStation goodies. We have this PlayStation 4 controller. So, sad story about this. When they released the 500 million limited edition console and this controller, I tried to go on the GameStop website, and within a few seconds, they had sold out of the 500 million limited edition console of the PlayStation 4. It has that classic look again with the see-through aspect to it, but I was lucky enough to snag one of these DualShock 4 wireless controllers. This is the 500 million limited edition controller. It has this pretty awesome blue, and this is just a great looking controller. I did decide to keep this one in the box, so this one I still have sealed in the box. I might open it one day, I'm not too sure just yet. But this one is a pretty awesome controller, and especially since the console is very limited in quantities, I had to snag one of these controllers, as those are also limited as well. And then on to some Nintendo items. We have this Nintendo Wii controller. So this one is pretty awesome. This is a gold color to go ahead and go with this GoldenEye 007 exclusive pack. So this actually says includes limited edition classic controller pro. So if we just open this up, we have this pretty awesome controller that you could get with this game bundle. So here we have this Wii controller. This is gold, and it still has all of the tape that goes around this controller port. So this one is a beautiful golden controller for the Nintendo Wii, and it's not one that you see very often, as you would have to get it in this pretty awesome pack. And then moving on to some classic Nintendo, here we actually have a more recent pickup that I added to my game collection. This is the controller for the NES, and this is actually the one that was included with the Nintendo Sharp Television, and this one is a pretty difficult controller to find. I've seen them sell for around $60 or so for the longest time, and more so recently, they've kind of skyrocketed to closer to $100, sometimes even more, to get one of these controllers. A lot of people, if they have that Nintendo Sharp Television, they need two of these controllers, and these are just so difficult to find in very great shape, as they do have this pretty awesome faceplate on here. It says Game Television. Of course, all the buttons are the same, but it's black instead of that gray style controller. And then on the back, it just says Nintendo controller, and then it has a model number NES004. So of course, this is a pretty awesome controller to have, and I'm just so ecstatic that I found it for less than $60, as it's not often that you would find one of these for that, especially nowadays. And this just goes along great with my Nintendo Sharp Television. So this is another rare and more so difficult controller to find. And then on to some Nintendo 64 controllers in my collection. So to go ahead and start out, we have this pretty awesome Donkey Kong 64 controller. This is for the Nintendo 64. This one you can only get through the Nintendo Power magazine. This one is one that's pretty much sought after among collectors, as it has this really cool design on it. Looks like the ends of bananas right here. On the controller handles, you have this Donkey Kong 64 logo. So this was through a promotion of Donkey Kong, and this is just a great crossover controller that really looks great in the collection on display. So I was happy to find one of these before it got more so difficult to collect for. And then along that same motion, we have this Nintendo Power 100 Nintendo controller. So this looks very similar to a gold Nintendo 64 controller, but because it has this little sticker up here that's in gold and has black around it, it says Nintendo Power 100. This one you can also only get through Nintendo Power magazine, and this was to go ahead and commemorate the 100th issue of the Nintendo Power magazine. So this one is just a very special controller, and one that's more so sought after, as both of these two are more so found often in the United States. So it's difficult for collectors overseas to try and find these controllers, and it's just pretty awesome that I have them in my collection. And then another one that's very difficult to find. I haven't actually seen more than a handful of these controllers, and whenever I do, I see them go for crazy amounts of money. So this one is the Hyundai Comboy Nintendo 64 controller. It looks like your average red controller, but it does have this Korean writing on here. So this is the Korean release of the Nintendo 64 controller, and I actually found this local to me in a pretty awesome video game store that wasn't very far away, and I only paid $12.50 for this controller. So I'm just still in shock that I found this one and the gray version of the controller, and I just paid $12.50 for each of them. So I thought that was just insane. As later, actually a while later after I posted a picture of my pickup, I figured out what these actually were, and I knew that I had something that was worth some money, and I've been offered close to $800 for this controller, and this is just insane to have in the video game collection, as this is one of only a handful that I've seen. So that is another controller that you should be on the lookout and try and find for a great deal. And then on to two other pretty neat controllers for the Nintendo 64. We actually have this Jeffrey controller and this Hello Mac controller. These are both two-toned controllers, and these are only Japanese exclusives. So we have this darker gray on top, this charcoal color, and then on the bottom we have this lighter gray color. So this Hello Mac controller was a part of this one store in Japan, their Hello Mac stores. So you could only get this through them, and there's only rumors as to how many of these controllers are out there, but there's not very many, and I've noticed that the price of these just keeps climbing. So I was lucky to grab them prior to all of this, and I was lucky enough to find this one for a great deal, in great shape. And then this Jeffrey controller. So a lot of you guys remember Jeffrey with being with Toys R Us. So of course this was a Toys R Us exclusive, only in Japan, where you could get this pretty awesome controller. So both of these just look great together, as they have very similar styles with them. They just have this little image right there. Of course we have Hello Mac, and this one has Jeffrey. So they really look great together. So you may be wondering, what are these three crazy looking controllers? They look just like Nintendo 64 controllers, but they have these crazy color patterns on them. So there was actually this company called Fox Data, and they often advertised that they would go ahead and hydro dip controllers. So they have this set of 4. Well, I only have 3 of them. I'm missing the Red Rain color. So of course we have this Chrome Leopard, we have this Desert Storm, and this Purple Rain. And there would be a 4th one. It's called Red Rain, so it has this red color to it. So these 3 controllers are pretty fragile, and this company Fox Data actually dipped these controllers, and it's rumored that they only made about 500 of each. So to try and find these is pretty difficult, as a lot of collectors try and snag these whenever they see them, as they are pretty fragile, and you'll notice that a lot of the paint on here flakes over time, especially if you use these controllers quite often. So I just try and keep these on display in my collection and just keep them tucked away, make them pretty safe. So these cost a few $100s a piece. To try and complete the entire set of 4 would be pretty expensive, as the Red Rain one is pretty difficult to find. It's often that you'll see these Desert Storm controllers on eBay, and then this one is probably more so common after that, and then the purple, and then the red. So I am still looking for the red controller to complete the set, as I also have the Chrome series of the Fox Data controllers, but that's for another day. So these ones are just pretty awesome, and they really look pretty sweet on display together, as they're just pretty wacky, they're pretty crazy, and they have these pretty awesome colors and designs on them. And then kind of going off this similar idea, we have this Dreamcast controller. So this one I actually got complete in the box. So this is a Dreamcast controller that has another crazy design on it. These are actually through a Japanese program, and this is part of the DreamPoint Bank. You can actually use this online service to purchase some of these with certain points that you have. So I had to have one complete in the box, and this one is different than your standard Dreamcast controller. So this one has a crazy design on this faceplate is what you'll notice. And this one has this marbled effect to it. It's very shiny and just has a really awesome style to it. So there are several others in the set. I only have a couple of them in my set, as I'm still looking to find some great deals on some of the others in the full set of these. So you could actually purchase these through that online service, and they would be about 2,500 points. And then on to another one that I have of that Dream Point Bank style controller. We have this carbon styled controller. Now I thought this one was pretty neat. I actually found this one local in one of my video game stores that I frequent. And this one's just really cool as it has all of this detail to it. It looks like the top part once again is actually designed, and this would have been a black controller that they used. So this one just has a sleek look to it. Really looks awesome. And alongside this one, it just looks really sweet. Now, of course, the Dreamcast also went through and had tons of these transparent colors, kind of like the Fantastic ones for the Nintendo 64. So this orange one was actually part of a bundle. It was never sold separately like some of the other colors in the set. And this orange one went with this Choo Choo Rocket game bundle pack. So this controller is one of the ones that's more difficult to find, and this just has a beautiful orange color to it, and it really looks great with the rest of the transparent colors and gives it that fantastic look. And then on to the last controller that we will talk about. So this one is a pretty awesome Sega Saturn controller. This was actually made with this Nights into Dreams controller bundle pack. So it says 3D control pad inside. So this one you could have gotten separately as well, but I got it with this controller bundle pack. So this one just looks really great, and it's a lot of fun to play with the Nights into Dreams game. So this is the Sega Saturn controller, and of course it looks way different than your normal Sega Saturn controller. This one is a little bit more expensive than the regular one. And it just has this different shape on here and makes the gameplay a little bit different. So overall, some of these controllers are just rare and expensive, limited edition controllers that are very difficult to find nowadays. Some of them are more so common controllers, but they just have really awesome designs on them. So with having hundreds of controllers in my collection, I tried to narrow it down to some of my personal favorites and some that just have some really great stories along with these controllers. So of course, let me know in the comments below which controllers you have never seen before and which controllers I would need in my video game collection. So of course, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Go ahead and check out my other videos and stay tuned for more.